Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Barrel Rollers Podcast, Episode 7, the eSports Special. And since it is the eSports Special, we have returning BrothersChris and first time on the podcast, the wonderful FusionJohn. It is an absolute pleasure and honor to have him joining us here today. And, of course, my stalwart co-host, Wolve3591, here today.
Ah, you dirty rottens. Hello, everybody.
And yes, John, don't be afraid to jump in at any time with some sounds and some vocals while we're recording video.
Hopefully puerile comments are permitted.
Yeah, while we're recording video, we do have people who listen to this on Spotify, iTunes. I wonder if anybody's listening on Google Podcasts.
I've done it.
On Google Podcasts. Fantastic.
On Google Podcasts, yes.
Fantastic. But here we are again with the Barrel Rollers Podcast. And eSports is something that's added so much depth and a whole new dimension to what we do with the Barrel Rollers, and none of it would have been possible without the combined efforts of Chris and John, both as fierce and very competent competitors, and also in their administrative and organizational work. It also requires managing and dealing with all kinds of personalities. So you need a special touch, I think, to handle that.
Diplomat. You really do. You need to be a diplomat. You need to
Chris is
be an
working on that.
executive officer, a CEO.
Sometimes you need to be a little bit more direct as well. But,
I'm working on that.
I like directness.
But before we launch into that, as is tradition, on the Barrel Rollers Podcast, the newbie gets a little bit of a hazing.
We got to know. There's things we must know, John. There are things we must know.
John,
So over the secret vault time of it.
John, it's getting close to a year since you arrived on the scene. Am I right in my thinking there?
Just over, I think.
Just over?
About a year, yeah.
Wow. How the time flies, and while at once it seems like it was so long ago, at the same time it seems like it was just the other day. Funny how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, that's life, isn't it? But it's been a fabulous year, really, really fabulous year. I remember I was racing alone, completely alone. I had no real point to it. I just wanted to take part in sim racing, or actually rallying. I was more rallying than anything else. And eventually I just thought, I spent all these hours in front of my, in my sim rig, in front of the screen back then, and then I got the headset. And I thought, well, for what? There's no real point to it. And eventually I thought, what if I could stream it out? At least I would have people to chat to, and then somebody else could share in it and whatever. So, hence the stream started.
So you created your Twitch account only a year ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I was aware of Twitch, obviously, but I wasn't a person who watched Twitch or took part in Twitch at all. Mm-hmm. So I sort of logged on for the first time, checked it out, and I can tell you the stream I stumbled across. It was Casual Kev, and I was just like, oh wow, this is like 20 times more professional than I expected it to be. I thought, dude with the PlayStation, and that was it. But no, Casual Kev's, So largely what I do is sort of based on that initial impression of Kev's stream. Obviously, I put
wow.
Now, but
wow. I mean, I can absolutely relate. I mean, and I feel that that awareness when you start watching other people. You put your stream out there first, and you go, oh, I wonder what other people are doing. Click. Oh. Okay, it is very enlightening. So let's wind back, because your sim rig is a wonder to behold.
it's an evolution.
lovely gear, but let's wind back to where it all began.
Yes.
How did you end up in sim racing, even before the first sim rig? how did that all happen? Was there real life influence that led you to the sim racing?
I think so. There's a frustration, a lifelong frustration that I never quite fulfilled in real life motorsport, what I would and could have, should have, and would have loved to have done in 16 different lifetimes ago. So, you know, a youth in kart racing, the couple of the trophies beside me here, you know, and for various reasons, you know, life moved on and whatever. So I guess always loving motorsport from a kid growing up, watching it on TV. Back in the day when it was not cool and not fashionable, there weren't all these channels. It was really, really hard to catch up with motorsport.
Oh yeah.
I actually watched BHP videos. I don't know if I can say that, but BHP videos on VHS to watch rallying and motorsport, like touring cars and whatever. Long after they'd actually been run, so from that was the beginning, and then moving on to sim racing. Obviously, I'm a gamer, you know, from the first Pong and all that type consoles, you know, the ZX Spectrums or whatever before that, 81s, I think they were, all the way up to first PlayStation, first Xbox. I had all that, and I think the first time I can pin the tail on the donkey was to say that my wife actually bought me a wheel on the PlayStation 2. I think it was one or two. It was a grey PlayStation with a lift-up circular
That's
lid.
the PlayStation 1.
And
PlayStation
1, is it? Okay. And
wow.
this steering wheel, it was kind of a steering wheel that had a T-piece on the bottom, and it was quite a cool design because you could put your thighs over the T-piece to hold it down. So I had that as my gift, and I would just like anything, you know, I mean, I don't know what was back then, but Need for Speed, kind of whatever was a game on PlayStation, I would buy it and race it with this wheel. And over the years, you know, went to a G25 Logitech, and then, you know, we moved around the world a bit with work, and it got shelved a bit, and then I remember I was in southern Sydney in a shop, a gaming shop once, and they just had on show on the floor a PlaySeat Evolution with some bits and pieces all over it, but a full-blown sim rig effectively. And there was me still with this like G25 Logitech looking for a desk to stick it on, and I was just like, I gotta have this bad boy, you know. So I made 2 trips from one side of the city to the other the same day just to go and buy that sim, and that was the PlaySeat, and then and Thrustmaster wheel and whatever. So anyway,
fascinating, John. Thank you.
Cheers.
Fascinating.
Oh crap.
Well, that's really interesting, John. I didn't know you went all over the world.
Oh yeah, well, work.
And
work.
Yeah, work.
I'm guessing southern Sydney for the Aussies out there, and particularly for the Sydney siders, you know what it's like when a band tours and they say the name of the town that they're playing in. Southern Sydney. Am I thinking it was like the Gamesman? Was that the place?
Yes.
The Gamesman.
The Gamesman, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I wasn't living anywhere near it, so it was a hell of a trek from where I was living to go to the Gamesman and back to the Gamesman and back, you know.
Well, that's something as well, like the accessibility of everything back in the day, you know. We had to hunt this stuff down. It wasn't like, oh, click, and then it's going to arrive at your door in a day or two. Well, not a day or two at the moment, but now you pre-order and you wait. But yeah, you know, it was a real event. Like even just tracking down, like you were saying, the VHS videos. You know, whatever you could get, in whatever format you could get, from whoever you needed to talk to get it. It was like that,
including parents to stay up for the 1 a.m. show that would be on, you know, rerun on TV or something.
Yes, indeed. It really was something else, and those moments, you know, where you would be physically somewhere and you'd see something for the first time because there was no other way you could be aware of it. That was really something else. But so the G25 arrived before you came to Sydney.
Yeah, years ago when I sort of had that PlayStation wheel, then after a while I wanted to get a bit more pro level, so I became aware that Logitech had this G25, so I bought that, and I had it for many years, and this was back when I was living and working in England, before I ever left the country really, and so that was great, it was fantastic, and the G25, I was a big fan of that wheel, and it moved around the world with me, and it was only actually last year, after years and years of being packed away in this box, I dug it out and tried to make it work, but the motors had a different opinion about life, so they called it a day. So my son got treated to a new Thrustmaster wheel instead of my old G25.
Oh, fantastic! So when was it that you picked it up again?
I would say I sort of put the sim racing on hold. Gosh, what would that be in 2012? When I moved in 2012 to Australia with work, and so I put the sim racing on hold then, and probably for a year or two. I mean, I was immersed in work for a year or two, and I didn't even get the computer out. I didn't even have a computer or anything other than a work laptop. And then I got I bought that sim rig out of the gamesman and put that part of an Xbox type setup, and then I thought that's not working, especially not in the lounge. So I moved it out of the lounge and set the old PC back up again, and it was quite funny. Just a quick story about the PC. It was quite funny because my PC was years out of date by then, and like I loved PCs and I built it myself, but it was old news. So I realised that I could get my old original CPU that was old news. I could go and buy another graphic card, which I did, and then the CPU, I found I could get some e-waste off of eBay for like a couple of bucks. E-waste, literally recycled old waste out of a server, and dropped this server chip in and overclocked the hell out of this thing. And so I had like 4.2 gigahertz out of this old server chip. It was a 2.5 gigahertz chip or something, and I ran the games from that, the sim racing from that. So.
Where there's a will, huh? That's what I love about hearing on these sim rig stories, because it is challenging bringing it all together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you might be able to throw money at it, but sometimes that can't even solve it when there's accessibility problems or stock problems.
No guarantee that tossing money at it's going to make it work.
Or stuff just doesn't work.
And knowledge and experience, hours of research and understanding. So you got to sort of put a toe in the water to get, confident to put the leg in the water. It's you can't really just buy into it. I don't think. Not you can, but not to completely.
Awesome. So we heard also about your introduction to Twitch. I'm like for my part, I was sort of made aware of streaming because I started looking for help with sim stuff, and that led me to YouTube and led me to YouTubers, and then finding what they're doing something live. This is obviously live. Okay, then there's live streaming on YouTube. Oh, people also go on this thing called Twitch. It was sort of like that. Is that indicative of your journey? Because you said you weren't really watching streamers before you started.
I have to be honest, I think laziness put me onto Twitch, and I'll explain that, because for years, I wanted to set up a YouTube channel for so many years, and you know what put me off? It was again this research, this lack of knowledge. It was the fact that I know graphics editing, video editing is a big thing, and I've got this guy that I'm absolutely hopeless at that stuff. So the thought of shooting video, B-roll, face, camera, and all that stuff, and put together a finished, polished video. The thought of it, the work involved, and to do that 3, 4, 5 times a week sometimes if you want to make a very successful YouTube channel, it just I couldn't face it. So for a couple of years I was just sort of sitting on this project. I know I should do it, but and then suddenly Twitch came along, and I thought, well, if that's a live stream, who cares about that stuff? Nobody's going to care. It's a live stream, so that's
put
kind of
yourself out there. That's what you got to do.
Dear.
Yeah, warts and all. Yeah.
Common thread, common theme, I think. It was laziness that sort of brought to Twitch as well, and streaming. and that whole intimidation factor of video editing.
Yes, which is a part of Twitch anyway, as I found out down the road. But yeah,
and a lot of folks enter Twitch from their console, because you're sitting there on your console. You don't have all of this rig around you typically with a console, and you've got a very simple button, broadcast. Push that left button and broadcast. Boink, you're there. You're just instantly on. Talk about lazy.
A lot of barriers of entry are taken away though, that, and it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, it is a fantastic thing. And so then, obviously, you were saying you start off with karting in real life, and sim racing. Sim driving gives us accessibility to more than what we can in real life, and actually that doesn't matter who you are. Just the accessibility of jumping in any car and going, oh, today I want to go to Laguna Seca, and 10 minutes later I'm off at Silverstone. and another 20 minutes later, I'm down at Bathurst. You know, that's
and what car do I feel like driving today?
Exactly.
It's magic. It's the wonder of sim racing. Yeah, and I think that's the why I went down the rabbit hole of immersion so much, because the thought to be able to just choose a car and experience it in as much detail as possible. It sort of shelved any project car I might have had. I thought of, would I have a project car in the garage? Which car would I buy? Now I can simulate most any car.
Indeed. But how did you end up in rally specifically? Do you have a background in loving rally and having that interest?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those BHP videos with the Group B cars and all that stuff, that was the era I was growing up. And always the thing that inspired me, excited me, was the sight of a rally car, full-blown flat chat on tarmac. I mean, dirt rallying is great. Obviously, everyone loves a gravel rally. What could be better than a run through Wales? But really, it's the tarmac, the extreme. I look at Ari Vatanen in the Mark II Escort. You've only got to watch him on the Isle of Man. That's just ridiculous, Yeah.
Dear
so
God.
Exciting.
is that what his coach?
That's it. The Terry Harriman moment.
God.
The cattle grid.
So good, wonderful, John. And I think we'll wrap that up by asking about the name FusionJohn. What's the origin of this? Because it is interesting, and actually, we need to talk to Chris about this, because we missed Chris. Chris has been on. This is your third time?
I
think this is your third time on, or maybe even fourth time. Third time at least. We missed this with you, so we'll start with John, but then we're going to circle back to Chris.
All right, you're on deck.
I'm going to have to repeat. I'm sure I said it. When I say it, you'll go, oh yes.
John?
So FusionJohn, how did that come about?
Yeah.
Again, I'd love to give you this beautiful, exciting story about this whole background, but really, it's not at all. When I was younger, I was the elder of a group of people who used to game together. So some younger family members, teenage family members, when I was in my 20s, they would game, and I would it was Halo back in the day. For what it was worth, that was the Halo days, So we would game on Halo, sorry, and I'd be playing, but I'd had to have some sort of gamer tag or something. You have to call yourself something, and the first 3 or 4 iterations were, I don't even remember them. They were beyond lame, and I tried to think of a cool name. I just couldn't come up with anything. I have no creativity. I have zero creativity, and somehow after 3 or 4 failed attempts, I stumbled across FusionJohn. Thought that's not as bad as any of the others, and I just couldn't be bothered to change it ever since. Which is why I use it across everything.
Nice. No,
it's a great name. It's a perfect handle.
It works fine, and you haven't had to try to push past that creative block since.
Not now.
I appreciate that so much. These I might have said this before, but I've got a background as a gamer as well, and any of these games where you've got to name your character, that's normally one of the big causes of me not finishing a game, because I get stuck on that screen and I stare at it. Then I exit the game and I uninstall. To come back, I can't.
I've done that. I have done that.
Oh dear. And Chris, no. So Chris, I think you've told me offline.
All right.
But we need it recorded.
Ah, right.
For the good people in listening to the podcast.
Right.
Who have yet to pull us up on the fact that we missed the origin of your name, but it needs to be done.
Well, okay, it's very similar stories to everybody's, really. It's from a gaming background. I used to play when computers came out and you could play online computer games. Call of Duty 2 was one of the first games where speeds were acceptable to play, even though you might have had to wait 50 minutes to download a map, but it were worth it, 50 minutes, which you could do in about 2 or 3 seconds now. But 2006, me and my brother Jules, we used to play together. We used to love this game, and I had sons as well. I think one was a teenager and one was about 9 or 10, and we had computers in the house because we love computers, and basically we just started playing as John did with his family, me, my brother, my 2 sons, And just the people came and says, "Oh, we need to start a clan," or "We need to start a clan," because clans are a bit like what Twitch now is now.
Yes.
People get together, communities get together, and that's what a clan was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So you had to recruit, and I remember Xfire. You just recruited on Xfire. That was it.
Oh, Xfire.
Yeah. Anyway, so
was it supposed to pronounce it Crossfire? I always said Xfire.
I think it's Xfire. I'm sure
Okay.
it is. Anyway.
I heard it both ways.
Yeah. So we just thought, well, let's think of a clan name, and we thought, well, me and Joe are brothers. There we go. Done. Brothers. That's it. And Brothers Clan. So that when we name it. So every time we have tags in his clan, we're always Brothers Chris, or Brothers Jules, or Brothers John, or Brothers Wolve, or Brothers Rain. If you were in our clan, you picked a name, as long as nobody.
I'd call myself Brothers Rain.
Brothers Rain, yeah.
I would.
I'd be proud to call myself a Brothers Wolve. Hell yeah.
Brothers Wolve.
It works well with Wolves, doesn't it?
It does.
So
that's what it all stands for. And like you said earlier, Rain, always trying to think of a name when you play a new game or you go into a new format. And like John's got, I think it's quite important as a streamer, or something you should seriously think about, is your name. And if you do want to move forward within the sort of social media side and the streaming, you have to think of a name, even to all the personal details where you've got all your personal details, like on Facebook. My name, all across all formats, is BrothersChris.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure it helps. I'm not sure it helps, but it helps me personally.
It's part of the whole branding concept, to have that consistency across all the platforms where you need to be identified. It just helps to remove any doubt that you are you or somebody's found somebody else. It actually is huge, because of establishing my name many years ago. People from my past who I want to have found me. I mean, it's not great if you want to hide from your past and you don't want it following you around. But no, it's been very positive. The example being PJ Cherney. We knew of each other back in the days of Forza Horizon 2 on the Forza Horizon and Forza Motorsport 6 boards. And of course, he moved on and became the community manager, social media manager for Dirt Rally 2. And, we had that moment of recognition. He was like, I know your name from somewhere. And I said, remember Forza days? And he was like, yes, of course. So it was very, very fortuitous. You never know how things will play out, I guess. So it's great. But Chris, just quickly returning back to your name, wasn't there another influence that you were talking about? A certain show for your name?
Yes, there was. It was quite ironic, actually. The reason why we did think of Brothers as well is because of Band of Brothers had just been released out, and it was just such an awesome,
great
epic
show,
piece of cinematography.
Oh, it was. Yep.
It was.
Wonderful
anyway, so
to watch, yeah.
and it's quite ironic you should mention it, because one of the rules to join the clan was you can't join unless you've seen Band of Brothers.
There'll be a quiz.
We used to have questions on 3 or 4 questions on Band of Brothers.
But in the days before live stream TV, that was quite a harsh entry thing if you hadn't watched it. How do you get the back catalogue to watch it?
True.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays as well, you have the quiz, and of course Google will provide the answers. So it's sort of
consult the book of knowledge.
Thanks, guys. And amazingly, we talk about the accessibility of driving simulators and racing simulators, to get in and experience, getting behind the wheel of these wonderful cars. But I would put forward that getting into a more competitive, more organized racing experience is nowhere near as straightforward, stress-free, or as or quite as accessible as people might imagine. I mean, it's certainly, I would say it's more it's more accessible than real life. When I think about what
100%.
the requirements for real life, there's the requirement of having a car. There's a requirement of the amount of financial backing one would require. There are travel requirements to physically get to the tracks, to take a weekend off and go travel with a car, with mechanics, all of that sort of thing. It is huge. I looked into when back in 2012 when I got my my Renault Sport Megane. The one thing I really wanted to do with it was tarmac rallying. But then I looked at, being in Australia, I looked at what it would be like to go tarmac rallying, and number one, the transport costs of a car. Just getting the car to the event when it's 1,000 kilometers away, 800 kilometers away, I was just thought, jeez, and then I've got to get it back. The time requirement, how am I going to carry all my spares up with me? All of that sort of thing. It's not I need a spare. I tap a button 3 times and then I've got the spare on the car. Done. It's not like that at all. But still, I think organized esports is a far cry from loading up a game, going, oh, where's a multiplayer at? Click, I'm in. It's something more. Even as good as iRacing, the structure it provides, even as good as any of these other games are, or sims are. Organized esports is something else. Chris and John, I might throw the ball over to you guys, because you guys have that real competitive spirit. How about you guys let me know about sort of early experiences with trying to get into organized esports?
It's something I wanted to do for a while. I can tell you, I wanted to do that for a long time. I think that was one of the reasons actually for going into Twitch, if I'm honest. It was just one of the perhaps lower level reasons, was just to try to get an involvement in esports. I had this idea that esports teams were top flight teams and nobody could get in. It was like a bit like a real life motorsport. I didn't realise there were varying levels of esports, varying entry points. So I think it was through the Barrel Rollers Discord. There used to be the esports channel before. I don't think it was incredibly popular, or maybe it had been in the past and had gone quiet for a while. But certainly there was an esports channel, and that I think was my sort of entry into it. And I think it was starting to discover things, doing a bit of research and finding out there's actually some very accessible and approachable leagues out there to jump in with. And I know back then Chris and I both sort of kicked around some ideas. I mean, Chris is always fantastic with ideas. I usually have 0, Chris has 1,000. And so he's absolutely fantastic in sort of coming up with ideas in the first place. So we very much took a few months to research and find it out, do some things and get involved in some events and find out where we were personally as drivers, but also where we were in terms of organisation. And that sort of R&D time really was 9 months ago, nearly best part of a year ago, Chris, I think.
And I think it was one of our mainstays, wasn't it? We had to research everything before we could install it into the barrel rollers. That was always long-term plan.
We were jumping into as many events as we could with little prep for each one, just to experience them and see what was going to work as a recommendation for other people and not just ourselves. So I remember I remember the first time I ever got involved in any esport was Chris invited me to join him in a team for AOR. It was Chris Myvokes for the AOR League. And I actually was working down in London that day, and I was in a McDonald's in London when I got the text message about that one. So yeah, funny the things you remember. But that was the first. That was the first, and then from there we were onwards and upwards. But these days, I have to say, Chris does 95% of all the organisation. He's an incredibly well organised man, and I sit back and marvel at the work that Chris does in terms of keeping everyone, because we've got quite a crew now, quite a lot of people involved with the various organisations, and it's fantastic. So yeah, how Chris keeps track of it all, I do not know. He's wonderful.
Logistics director Chris.
Yeah, well, logistics is my forte. That's one thing I'm probably good at. I'm driving faster.
Driving faster, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always trying to think how to organise things. I do overthink sometimes. That's why I always sometimes ask other people first. I'm not overthinking here, am I? It's quite easy to overthink.
Yes.
Especially in logistics. I always have a sort of theory that there could be 25 solutions and all 25 could be correct, but you've just got to pick the right one that suits you best.
Yeah, without a doubt. So AOR was the first one that you guys ran.
Yeah, and
I think initially we wanted to get involved with eSports, and then we first of all wanted to see how they were organised, what the admin was like, was it worth it, was it rewarding? Because obviously doing some eSports, I think there was a couple we did, and we just felt that they're not good, not rewarding, people don't seem bothered. Because you do get a lot of feedback in eSports from the people who organise them, which is very, very important for sure. But yeah, going back to eSports, I started at the same time as John, and I think that was first eSports I did as well, John, the AOR. So that was sort of just on the spur organisation. But yeah, we did enjoy that AOR, and that's one of our top eSports.
That's right.
One of the top eSports events. AOR just started this week, and we've got probably 2 out of the top 4 or 5 fastest people in the world involved in the league that me and John are in. It's quite daunting and frightening. Probably going to that.
There's got to be a little bit of stress going on there when you guys are going head to head against some of the best in the world. I can't imagine. I don't think I can manage this. That's why I'm an amateur. I'm in JRC 3, and I'm happy.
JRC 3 is good. There's 5 tiers, so JRC 3 is good. It's a very competitive tier.
And again, you guys making it accessible to amateurs like myself and the rest of our community, and you have made it incredibly easy for somebody who just has a passing interest in esports to dip their toe in the water. I can't thank you guys enough for offering this up. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, JRC really, really suits the type of community we do hold. It's really good. 5 leagues. Even their top league's really, really tough.
Yep.
Just as an example, I think me and John have got good pace with most people in JRC, but if you just make one mistake in the whole 10 stages, you're not in top 3, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
One mistake.
2 mistakes and you're out. Yeah.
2 mistakes and you're not in top 10.
Yeah. 100%.
That's a fact. So you just got to go into the mentality of it. It's tough. You just got to let things just go over your head all the time. I do anyway. I don't know how John approaches it, but you just can't let it get to you.
In rally racing, right? It's very stressful. As you say, one little mistake can happen. I mean, a split second, and suddenly you're off the top.
Well, I'll give you an example.
Stress is something I have to keep an eye on in life. I'm not 23 anymore. I do have to keep an eye on stress, and I've found rallying is manageable. I can manage stress in rallying because it is you're on your own against the clock. And I've found ACC, for example, because our barrel rollers, we've now got extremely competitive GT series with ACC. I sort of have a dabble at that, and also the iRacing. And when you're racing other people, that's where the stress is the most difficult to manage. In rallying, as long as you don't take it to heart, don't take it too personally. Everyone makes mistakes. If you just get that little bit grown-up attitude that you're going to screw up sometimes, the stress is manageable. Yeah.
And that's really good about esports as well, especially when you form in teams, because esports is mainly an individual event. You're there for yourself, really. And teams is just sort of a little back burner, which helps the morale and keeps the communities together. And obviously, if you win it, it's nice.
It helps you compete, though, if you're not feeling up to it. If you're really not feeling like it, why should I compete? Well, because I've got teammates to represent. And so there's that aspect as well.
That's the primary reason that I am yet to make that commitment is I don't want to let anyone down. and not because of my performance, which I think that could let people down, but it is the commitment level of knowing that I have X number of stages that I'll need to drive for the team, and just not finding the time for it. That is something that concerns me. It does concern me, but I'd love to do it. I think I have a competitive side that I have done my best to try to manage, just like I try to manage my stress levels. Because my competitive side can both bring out the best in me and the absolute worst in me. And it's more of the latter that I'm trying to not make itself apparent, I guess. from a young age.
Keeping an even keel.
To make it even worse, everybody, is that when you get to the top leagues, which me and John are in quite a few, you have to do it in one sitting, and you have to record.
One sitting.
One sitting. And between races, you can't have a bigger break than a few minutes. Maybe a toilet break, that's it, because obviously they check everything.
What is the reason for this requirement?
Because of practice. Because if you were to do a couple of stages, then jump out, you could practice the hell out of the next 2 stages, go in and do just those 2 stages, jump back out, and it makes it artificial. Whereas rallying, and this is one of the wonderful things about rallying, you take on a stage with just the pace notes. I mean, even that's an advantage. But you in theory have not driven that stage before. Potentially, the one time you did the pace note creation was the only time you drove that stage before. So that's the great thing about rallying, and all of that's gone if you can practice it 1,000 times before you run it.
Completely agree.
Do these leagues put up other rules in terms of equipment you can use, limitations on the vehicles that are used? No? Just
assists, that's all. But what assists you have, they put limitations on what assists you use, that's all. But you can use a controller or a steering wheel or whatever.
Well, for example, in the AOR at the moment, this new season which just started last week, in the top league it's cockpit only. You have to record all the stages. You've got to have your lighting settings between a level, because obviously night racing with your brightness on full is cheating. So there's certain levels of stuff like that to be checked.
And they're also recording because they want to make sure you're not doing illicit cuts as well. I assume.
Yeah, there's the cuts.
Exactly.
Free wheels always on the track. Usually get away with 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The edge of 2.
That's probably
this much at the edge of 2.
I think if you ever watch me and John or anybody who's involved in the top end esports, just watch them. We'll never ever leave the track.
Hang on. So that's on the rally stages, not rallycross. Rally stages. They're watching how many wheels you're keeping on the track.
Yep. What they do is they'll watch it in fast forward times 8 or times 60.
Still, God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because there's times when Phil, the co-driver in Dirt Rally 2, Phil will read out cut. If he reads cut, go for it. But he doesn't read it very often, and if he doesn't read it, you can't believe in the track.
Damn.
Oh man, there's many places where you can cut that Phil doesn't speak about.
Usually in esports, though, you usually just get a warning. I've had a warning. It was in my first esports in AOR, and I'll tell you the one. The sort of in the USA, the hay bales, the big long U-turn. It's quite bumpy. You know what I mean?
Oh, there.
So I was coming one way, and I just went out and I went onto the grass, and all 4 wheels just made it to the grass. I just got a warning that time. Which did help me, actually.
No real intention.
No intention.
Whoa, hang on. That's not even a like I wouldn't consider that cutting a corner. You've extended the track.
Yes.
You haven't cut the corner.
Penalty.
But I'm going faster.
Damn.
Yeah. So that's another thing me and John look for, and what feedback we got from certain esports. We do like the sort of marshalling of esports. Do like that because it's quite easy in Dirt Rally 2 to. You just have to Google it, don't you? The cuts.
Are you guys still have an eye to other organizations out there, or are you?
Absolutely.
Always, yeah.
This season, right now, we've jumped into 2 completely new esport leagues this season that we haven't done before, as an exploration again. So we're always looking out.
I imagine you're getting some invites extended to you as well. I mean, participating in the top leagues, you're making your names known.
Naturally, I'm turning down invitations 5 times a day.
That's what I'm talking about. See, right there, he's a celebrity. My God, FusionJohn.
No, I wish.
I'm sick of sending them back.
Reject.
Talk to my
Come
agent.
on, guys. Now, have you guys? Are you thinking about maybe expanding into circuit racing for esports, or that's maybe not a good fit necessarily for a rally guy?
It's something I gave thought to it for a while, but I have to say I've backed away from that. And I know Chris isn't mad on circuit racing anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you said before earlier
Rally.
in the podcast, it's very stressful indeed. Yeah.
But
Extremely.
So
circuit racing does help your rallying for sure.
oh yeah,
For sure.
I'm a big proponent of cross training skills because, in particular, because in a different discipline, it will emphasize different skills and different techniques more. So, for instance, if you practice drifting, then you spend a lot more time initiating slides, going sideways, and getting out of a slide and getting a feel for that. A lot more time doing that than you do in rally, because you're trying to grip in rally for the most part, and you know the slide is just something you do to help with rotation and the like. What that means is if you're just rallying, you're not getting a lot of time practicing doing this kind of thing. When you're drifting, you're only pretty much practicing, you know, initiating, holding, and getting out of a slide. So if you do that cross-discipline practice, it sort of becomes muscle memory, because you've been practicing it in drifting. You come back to rally, it happens, and the muscle memory kicks in. You don't even have to think about it.
Absolutely.
I used to watch drifting, and I used to think, what are they doing? What are they doing? Next, watched 5 seconds. After doing rallying, I want to get into drifting now, because I do.
Me too, actually, me too.
I do realise that the weight control, I think drifting gives you so much control of a car. So I think I'm after that control of drifting and sliding and getting all that.
If you've only ever done circuit racing, you get a fear of drifting. You have a fear of the car getting sideways, getting away from you, and you panic react, and you don't expect the slide, and when it comes, you sort of reacting to it rather than coping with it properly. So I think anything that gives you experience of a drift and holding a drift and knowing when it's going to let go and not being afraid of it is an advantage.
Yeah, like if to tie that into a circuit racing scenario, if you're able to save a slide and just make it into a bit of a wiggle, you know, that could save you from an excursion into a wall, which means you're in the pits, which means, you know, your position just boom, boom, boom drops down, or maybe you might even need to retire. You know, so it's all of those hours you spent in another discipline completely that save you and help your position. You know, you might have, you know, a whole season of races where you know, I don't know who you are if you're doing this, but you never lose control of a car once.
Not trying hard
that
enough.
fantasy scenario. So you might not need to draw on that skill, but if it just saves you one race, you know, then it's paid itself off. You never know when it's going to be needed.
Yeah. I think John pointed out right at the beginning, it's all about knowledge. Just having that knowledge and how to, you know, put that knowledge out properly.
Yeah, and
Get it right.
sorry, Wolfie, go ahead.
Have you guys considered rallycross in the world of esports? I know it's brutal. It's absolutely vicious out there.
I did a season with the WERC community. I did their rallycross, and we just actually had the Race of Champions in January as a wash-up after last year's season. I did the rallycross as an exploration thing to see whether or not, again, like every other esport, whether it's suit us or not. And I have to say I didn't personally enjoy it, and I did the whole season. If I ever commit to, this is something I wish more people would do. If I commit to an esport thing, if I commit to a season, I'm going to do the season whether I love it or not. I'm going to do it because I said I would do it, and at the end I'll jump out and say thank you, I had a great season, but that's me, I'm done. And that's what I did last year with the rallycross. I say that about other people because some people jump in, give you full commitment, 2-3 events, and then they jump out, and then you've perhaps on an empty car or an empty slot or something. But either way, the rallycross, I didn't think it was for me, and the uptake of interest in others hasn't been particularly high in our community. But Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, I probably agree with that assessment. Rallycross is a brutal combination of rally and circuit racing, right? The drift control, the different surfaces that you're on, and of course the aggressiveness of your competitors. It's almost acceptable to go ahead and bump somebody in RX.
It's
so few laps.
So few laps. The circuits are so brutally short. Sharp turn after sharp turn after sharp turn. A grippy surface onto loose surface onto grippy surface on, and here's a jump, and oh wow. RX is so intense. I think it's a very particular type of person that gets drawn into it enough to want to pursue it, because you don't get a lot of chances.
There's not
It's
many.
so different.
There's not many RX esports because people just fall out with each other. You lose friends in RX.
Yeah, quickly.
Again, live lobbies, getting everyone together in a live lobby with the various ping rates, connection issues, it's just a real chore.
Ping rates, locales, time zones,
rules,
cross-platform, stewardship, all of that stuff. It is immensely challenging. So I have the utmost respect for the people who do commit to that. But yes, like you said, John, it's only for certain personality types. I would say. Where was I gonna return to? An interesting thought I had. Well, interesting for me. I hope you guys find it interesting. We were talking about the accessibility of sim racing at the very start of a podcast, and I think that also ties into the kind of rules that we end up seeing in sim racing. I think this is very broad, because the accessibility means that if we take into account circuit racing, I would say the Nordschleife is the one circuit out of all of them that I've done the most laps around. It would be thousands of laps of a Nordschleife I've done over the last 20 plus years, or however long.
Considering the length of the circuit, that's a time commitment.
How's my
that
math?
would be me as well. I absolutely love Nordschleife.
When would I have gotten access to the Nordschleife?
I don't even know what it is.
13 miles of the Eiffel Mountain to Eiffel Hills in Germany.
Gran Turismo 4 might have been the first place I got access to it. So when was
GT? Gran Turismo was it for me as well.
So that would have been 2005. Okay, so 16 years. 16 years I've had access to it, and just so many laps around there that it skews what my skill level probably should be in real life, and you find the level of competition because of just how many laps an individual can put around a circuit. I mean, you give somebody a 2-week lead time and they've got spare time, and you tell them, all right, we've got a race at this track with these cars. The amount of laps a person can put in 2 weeks on that track, it's amazing. The amount of improvement one can have in that time if you just session it.
C times everything.
Yeah, we have the same thing in rally, right? In a real rally stage, and this originally attracted me to rally. It was this progression, Nordschleife, because it was a long track that I hadn't memorized all of the turns yet. Because me, when I cut laps around a track and I session a track over and over and over, you get into a good flow, but it can get hypnotic, and you're just doing the same line through the same corners, and you realize you've just been doing the same thing over and over and over and over. So I was like, oh, Nordschleife, a long track. I won't remember where I am. I'll forget which part of a track is, and it'll be a constant surprise. Oh, whoa! I don't realize where this corner's going. But that faded after doing many laps around. I'm like, okay, well, what's the next thing? Well, it's point-to-point racing, right? And so I looked for. I think I found Assetto Corsa, allowed me to do some point-to-point on mod tracks and hill climbs and the like. Dirt Rally 1 with a hill climb. I'm like, yes, this is the sort of thing that I like. Yeah, sure. 12 kilometers, 16 kilometers, point to point. I'm not going to memorize that anytime soon. You do. You do. You spend enough time going down that same 16 kilometer stretch, you end up memorizing it. You end up finding
you do the stages in Dirt Rally.
Yeah, you can turn the pace notes off after a while, because you know the tracks after a while if you practice it enough. And exactly what you were saying, the reason that these esports events have these strict moderation is to preserve that spirit and not let the people who have enormous amounts of spare time really take advantage of that. But it is challenge for any organization, and also personally, I guess, the competitiveness versus, say, the immersion side of things. There's constant debates about should you be allowed to be on the hood cam or must you be in the cockpit cam. There are reasons, valid reasons that people would want to be on the hood versus the cockpit, but then there are advantages they get as well. It's a really tough thing to tackle, I think.
There was an interesting controversy when the Solbergs did the Solberg Rally.
Right.
In one of the lockdown phases, the Oliver Solberg did the rally, celebrity event. Him and his father, Petter, and there was controversy because they had a full-blown sim rig, steering wheel, and used chase cam. Chase cam, watching the car from behind on screen, and that was really quite something. I mean, I couldn't understand how that was faster, and you could see Petter was struggling with that as well. Similar generation. Why would you watch your car in front of you when you could be in it?
Yes. Yeah. So there are both the challenges with doing these things, but if you can overcome those challenges, there are advantages to be raked in as well. And it is this challenge of accessibility, I think, because you provide these things for people so that a broader range of people can access, right? So you provide good controller support. You let people drive outside of the car because not everyone can have triple monitors or VR or ultra wide screen. Some people still have a very narrow screen, and it's like, well, I can't see anything, so I need to find a view where I can see appropriately. Well, I remember the Solberg said something along the lines of, in real life we can feel the G-forces, so we are clued in on the weight transfer before it happens. The best way they could feel the weight transfer was to go to an external cam and to observe the body of a car. That was the rationale. And again, it's accessibility. You don't want to say, oh well, buy a motion rig and get butt kickers. Spend a couple thousand so that you can and you don't have to cheat. But then the counterpoint to that is like, well, then it's sort of like pay to win in a way. People who can't afford it get denied access to this feedback. It is always a tough line to walk, and you can get some fairly heated opinions, very strong opinions.
I'm really curious actually about VR, where it comes to e-racing. Would you guys say that the top competitors are all VR racers?
I can tell you one top competitor who's a VR racer. Jonathan Schaefer is in my channel quite a lot. We talk quite regularly, and he's got the Valve Index VR headset, and he races cockpit cam VR. But then again, if you look in JRC, the fastest people every time are always on controller, TV screen and a controller. So,
it seems like, so from a amateur, not really knowledgeable about VR, it seems to me that it would be an advantage to be wearing VR.
It's a good question, Wolvie, but out of the top 100 best drivers in the world, there won't be more than 5 that wear VR. They'll be all bonnet cams, low graphics, because when you need to get to that top end, you cross a line where you start to push everything then, because you need to be at the top end. And crossing the line is using as many advantages to yourself as possible to win.
Right.
And you've crossed that line then. And that's something that me and John have talked about. We'll never ever cross that line. Ever.
It's interesting.
We're too old anyway.
It's too stressful. Too much stress.
You start talking about competitiveness, right, and getting the competitive edge, and it is absolutely true that if what you want more than anything else is to win, then you should be using every competitive edge you can get, and that's where I think the true origin of the phrase it's only cheating after you've been caught sort of comes to play, because a lot of that stuff has its origins in the gray areas, right? It's like, well, you said this, but you didn't say anything about that. So, I didn't think it was cheating. And you see it
famous in Formula One.
You see it all over motorsports, Formula One, right? You see all of this stuff. It's like, well, you didn't say, the Tyrrell fan car, for instance. There's nothing in the rules about saying we can't have, a dynamically operated fan that sucks the car down into the ground.
It's a good innovation.
Yeah, it's innovation. And it isn't cheating until a rule comes up that explicitly says no, that actually is cheating right there. Just because nobody else thought of it doesn't mean it's against the spirit. But it really is like that. I see multiple examples up and down and up and down throughout history, and a lot of these things you don't find out until years after the fact, but it's too late. It's too late already. For instance, when I was a member of the New South Wales Nissan Skyline Club, it has its origins in being an official Nissan Australia operated club that was then handed over to the owners when Nissan no longer wanted to fund it. So it had its fairly official origins. That helped us to maintain links to some of the motorsports teams, and through that there was one person who went around and bought all of the former Australian touring car Nissan cars. He had each and every one throughout the generations. From the Bluebird of the 80s, the Turbo Bluebird, to every single DR30, R31, R32 Skylines. He had them all. And I was involved in the club in an administrative sense, and he invited a few of us for a private viewing of his collection. I'll never forget what it was like, because we met after work, and it was a winter, so it's already dark by the time we all meet, and his house was out in semi-rural areas, right? And a lot of very wealthy people live there because they get the privacy. They have a big house with multiple garages well off the main road, and it was this sort of. I was expecting this sort of thing, but I rock up. It's actually a very humble little house, triple car garage, not 8-9 car garage, triple car garage, but we're all pull up in his driveway. He comes out of his front door. He waves at us. He hits a button on his remote, and the middle garage door starts rolling up. And there are the quad tail lights of the 1991 Bathurst winning R32 GTR you know, in the Nissan livery.
Nice.
You know, there it is, the actual winning car, Scaife and Richards. He then proceeded to show us all of the little cheats every single car had. Every single car had a cheat. For instance, and if you go to YouTube now, there's a video of Mark Scaife, who drove that car. It's the very car that I'm talking about. There's a technical video of it where he gets reunited with the car and he starts showing some of the features. And one of the features that we got shown and Mark Scaife talks about was there was a panel in the center console that you could flip down, and there was a little pneumatic brass valve there that you could turn to increase the boost. The scrutineers didn't know it was there, but the drivers knew it was there.
Oh, dirty rottens.
Dirty rottens.
All of these kind of things, you know, and you just think, if this team is doing it, certainly the other teams are doing it, because, you know, the engineers get hired between the teams, the team bosses move from team to team to team to team, you know, drivers move around. This knowledge, this approach, it's everywhere, and it's all about the competitive edge. And so, you know, long story, circling all the way back, when we move into sim racing, you know, there are things that are happening there as well that maybe are not in super public, but sort of the knowledge gets shared, such as the cuts. When it gets too public, then, you know, rulings need to be put into place to address them. But
So come on, guys, spill your secrets, Chris. FusionJohn, what are your secrets with DR2? How the hell are you so fast?
so,
I think Chris needs to answer that one. He's faster than me.
Not on tarmac. We make a good team, me and John. He's great on tarmac and I'm great on dirt.
There's got to be a secret, right? Are you overclocking your GPU? Is that somehow giving you nitro boost?
Well,
what the hell? What's going on?
I play when I stream and I do my eSports, I play at 45 FPS, stroke 50.
45 to 50 on with the headset on.
With the headset on.
Damn.
No, but that's only on the night stages and the really graphic enhanced ones. But it runs roughly about 55, 60 FPS, and it's really steady. So 60 is good enough.
The steadiness, I think, is
the
you know,
key.
stability is probably way more important than outright frame rate for us. Because no good if, you know, your game can run at 144 FPS if every now and then it dips below 30, like it's constantly fluctuating. that would drive you nuts. Just imagine that suddenly things are slowing down as you're coming to a hairpin, right? As you're braking into a hairpin, everything slows down. And you don't know, is that enough braking? And suddenly it speeds back up to 144 FPS. It's like, oh no, not enough braking. Off you go.
Freeze frame before the hairpin and suddenly reappears after the hairpin. That's happened many times.
And you get it's accelerated as the game catches up.
Yeah, steady FPS is definitely the key. Even at low FPS, 45.
Well,
I know it's not. I know people don't accept it, but they do say 45 minimum for driving.
So yeah.
So now,
go, Wolvie.
Do you guys do most of your competitive esports racing live streaming, or do you find yourself looking at sort of trying to maintain sanity and not have the distraction of streaming when you're doing
It's
esports?
a very good question, Wolve. Very good question. That's another balancing trick each person has to take on themselves.
Yep.
Balance. Do you do them all on stream? Do you showcase the esports all the time? Do I do it offline to drive faster? I don't know. I just stop thinking about it and just do them when I want.
I think I don't know if Chris, if you keep experimenting with different things, but I do. I'm always experimenting with different things. And the last couple of weeks, in fact, basically last week, because all the new season started last week, I took a different approach because I know that people don't like sort of being restricted in chat. I know that people don't like not hearing text to speech. So I took the view to redirect my text to speech into a different sound output, and mute that to sound output so I wouldn't hear it while I'm racing, so it would simulate being off stream whilst being on stream. The thing is, it's better to race off stream because you can focus, but if you race on stream, you've got video evidence and people can see that you're not doing everything twice. You're not recording off stream and then streaming live as well. So
right.
And certainly with the amount of eSport events we're in now, time is, I would say everything I do in Dirt Rally 2 is on stream now. So that's it. It's a huge time commitment.
Me too now. I might do a few clubs offline and things like that. But yeah, in my force, I want to do eSports every time, if possible, on my stream.
But
which, because
you've got a stream to manage.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
It's difficult. You like you say, I think we talked about this in Ladder, you're always thinking, you're always trying to move forward, developing your stream. How can I get better? How can I do this? And that's one of my things I'm thinking. I want to do eSports. I want to sort of showcase eSports, the barrel rollers, our community. So I've got to develop that now.
Your audience, our audience for the most part, understands this. If they know that you're participating in eSports, they tend to, chill out and let you do your thing. So it's become an important thing for you guys, obviously.
I think the balance, I feel like the balance based on last year's experience and starting up again last week, I think the balance is, say, 1 esport to 2 esport events if they're not too long at the earlier part of the stream, moving on to something more community based and fun afterwards is the right balance.
Yeah,
that was what I tried to achieve last year, and I think it worked very well. This season, certainly last week, it was almost completely dedicated to esports, and to be completely frank, it's an audience killer because it kills chat. You're not interacting with your people that have come to watch you, and so I'm missing out because I'm not interacting with friends, and they're not having a good social interaction in the channel. So it's a difficult thing to master. I think stepping down the number of events I'm in and doing 1 per stream would probably be the right balance.
That's what I do with John. I only do 1 eSports stream. I don't do any more. 1, that's it. Because obviously, as a driver, sim driver, you're always thinking, where do I perform best? And I always feel I perform best as I start driving, or not start streaming. My first hour driving seems to be the hottest. So that's the reason why I do. Yeah. Like I do stream in the afternoon. You see, some days I'll just I'll just sleep until 10 o'clock on occasion. Very rare recently, but over the last few weeks, when nobody's been off sick, I haven't worked Monday to Friday. I work Saturday and Sunday, so I've been sleeping until 10 o'clock. I got up over one and thought, God, I feel really refreshed. I'm going to drive fast today.
it's that competitive edge we were talking about. I have to drive first thing in the morning, because if I drive late, my performance is already shocking enough. You don't want to see me driving at the end of my night when I'm super sloppy. So I'm willing to get up early.
Yeah, it does.
Just to perform mediocre.
The biggest thing I find is if I do say an esports event early on and I'm not talking much, and then I move on to chatting with everyone and it's less stressful, it's fine. I can go to the end of the stream, no problem. But if I'm doing currently I'm doing 2 esports events per stream, it means that come the end of the stream, I'm tired, very tired. It's late at night. I've done 2 really focused events, and then I've got to think of the energy to try and talk to people and restart interacting with people where perhaps they've gone quiet or maybe moved on to another channel, and it is a difficult thing. So having the energy to not be entertaining, but just to ask questions of people and get involved with people when you're on your bump stops tired, it's and that's the thing. So
people underestimate how much energy it takes to sim race in rallying specifically. I mean, we're talking every muscle in your body is engaged, every nerve is firing, and when you come to the end of the stage, all of that stops, and that adrenaline just plummets down again, and then you pick it back up for the next stage. It is exhausting, especially 12-stage rally.
Sometimes, Wolve, I've sat down in my chair first thing in stream and drove crazy, and I've been shaking like that with adrenaline after the first event. Just that, just letting it all out. It just gets you. It's
anybody that gets in the seat understands that. Looking at it from outside the seat, not so much.
The wonderful thing, though, is that when we're in our sim rigs, normally our beds aren't too far away, or our couches aren't too far away if we need them. I know Joe Valor, as soon as he's done with a stream. He's straight to the couch, feet up. He wanted to laugh on the big screen. I can so relate to that.
I can as well.
During my few real life track days, the track that I would frequent is a 3-hour drive away on the freeway. Not Bathurst, unfortunately, which is also 3 hours, but a much smaller and cheaper track to hire out, 3 hours to the south of me. But I would normally be so excited for a track day because they're so sparse. You rarely get the opportunity to do one, you know. But the amount of, again, it's just to relay the amount of effort it took just to get a car on the track back in the day, you know. I'd have these things coming up for months. I knew months ahead that they were happening. We'd have to meet to convoy down at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. because our cars would have to be scrutineered before they were allowed on the track. Then there was a driver briefing. And then, of course, because they're so rare, you spend the whole damn day getting as much track time as possible. None of this, I'm going to drive for 40 minutes and drive an hour and I'm going to take a break and drive again. It's like, no, I'm pounding the track as much as I possibly can for this day because it could be months until the next one. And all that adrenaline you guys are talking about, that courses through your body for the whole day. You get out on the track, you come back off, you're so excited, you're so happy, you're talking to everybody who will bloody listen. You cheer your friends on the track, and then you've got to drive home. Night
staying awake after you've spent everything.
3 hours of freeway driving to try to get home. Been driving all day. it's something I certainly don't miss that component of doing track days. There is definitely things I miss about doing real life track days. The real life G-forces, even with a motion rig, you don't get 1-to-1 replication of real life G-forces, especially when you spin out. Wow, that feeling. But I will say, I just got VR recently, and even without motion, VR can just put that sense of motion into your head so strongly. It's alarming. You
feel stuff.
Yeah, you feel it.
You feel stuff that you shouldn't feel. And it becomes memory feel.
I drove a daily on Monty, and I think it was 2000cc downhill. It felt slippery. I felt the car was floaty and had no grip, and it was uncanny. But I would say, just like, going from a controller to a wheel, I think there's an adjustment period as well. Going to VR.
Well, controller's 4 fingers, isn't it? That's all you have to do.
Yep.
Move your eyeballs and 4 fingers.
And a controller is what, $60? Yeah, piece of cake.
And that is an expectation challenger as well, right? People who go from, I experienced this myself. You go from a controller to a wheel, and you think, well, this is the more natural, more intuitive interface. I'm going to be faster. Sort of not quite what happens for most of us, anyway. Some people might immediately get it.
The amount of overcorrecting that occurs when you go from a controller to a wheel.
I think one of the big things is
understanding the weight transfer. Suddenly, it's a whole different thing with the wheel versus the controller.
One of the big factors as well is that it relies on your competence to set up. And I think that's both wheel and VR, because you got to set up your VR, and there are so many factors to setting up your VR. You got to set up your wheel, your input, your force feedback. I think there's a lot of stuff. I think those are big things that you can spend weeks or months working on as well. But yeah, I'm excited about VR and really eager to get into a bit more. But something I wanted to say earlier about getting back to equipment and competitiveness. while you do have all of these things that can get you the competitive edge, there are so many people who have proved you don't need it. You absolutely don't need it. We see people like Mecha Mike on a keyboard, right?
Yep.
And I know there's somebody else I think who runs JRC who's super fast on a keyboard.
Snaky 15, Snaky 115, Austrian guy.
A lot of people also with just a basic controller, keyboard controller. I mean,
and the guys that are running in chase view with those controllers, that blows my mind. I mean, they're throwing that car around. They know every centimeter of that track, how much swing they can get out of it, when to turn it. You don't get that, I think, when you're in the cockpit. You don't get that sensation when you're in chase view.
There's advantages and disadvantages. Sorry, John.
It's muscle. It's muscle memory. I was going to say. I think if you've spent 1,000 hours with the controller, you get very good with the controller. It's muscle memory, and the car is a thing on the screen that you're directing around a course, rather than it being with a wheel in cockpit. You're feeling like you're driving a car. I mean, look, that's my view. I've always gone for the immersion angle. That's why I have everything I have is for immersion, not for speed or not to be the fastest, but for immersion to feel it. So,
absolutely,
immersion is the main thing.
Absolutely, and that's why it actually doesn't matter what control mechanisms you use, what hardware you really have. If you have the capability to adapt to it and do what's needed again, and again, this is competitive edge, right? Can you do what's needed? Because a lot of us will say, imagine taking a formula rim, a formula wheel, a flat wheel, that's only got 180 degrees of rotation, and driving that thing in chase cam, we'd probably, spend all of 5 minutes and go, nah, this I can't do this. This is awful. But somebody who is willing to spend the time, is willing to do what it takes, can get fast with it. It's just about learning the muscle memory. Like, what do you need to do to control? Okay, well, with 180 degrees of rotation, I'm not doing these, right? I'm probably keeping my arms right tight up against my chest and just moving my wrists just a little bit to steer. It's all of these sort of things that come into play when you want to be competitive, and you got only what you have to work with. I remember reading about one of the top iRacers who won some big tournament with a cash prize or some league. And when it was revealed, his sim racing setup, he had, I think it was a G25 on a laptop, and he would sit on his bed, and some table pulled up to his bed, but his wheel was mounted on, then a laptop stand with a phone book to get the monitor up to his eye level. But he had that competitive spirit. He did what he needed to do to get there. So yeah, it's that balance for us. Do you just want to win, or do you want to experience? Do you want to replicate being in the car and that sort of what we were talking about earlier, John? Now I get to sort of experience what it would be like to driving this car, and maybe I want to race the car as well. It is. Yeah.
Right. I just spent today doing a 6-hour race in a Dallara P217, driving it around Silverstone. 6-hour race. I mean, I can't imagine ever at any point in life experiencing that without being able to do it in sim racing. It's just never going to happen, and it's an experience. I mean, the force feedback, the car is the downforce, the high downforce nature of the car. It's incredible. I love the sim racing for that aspect of it, experiencing these things.
Awesome.
Fascinating subject today, guys. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, John and Chris for joining in. Wolvie, as always. I think we're good to wrap up there. I think we could actually continue chatting about sim rigs and competitiveness forever, but maybe we'll save for future episodes. I think we could do an episode on sim rigs
alone. Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
I think there's so much to talk about there.
the various manufacturers obviously out there, how you put everything together, how you bring it all together to make it work for you.
The thrills, the joys, the pains. I think that
the
could
do's
be
and don'ts.
the do's and don'ts, and don't do what Rain did. Learning is fun. But for now, I guess we'll wrap it up there for episode 7. Likely the next episode will be in 2 weeks' time. We'll work out. I think we'll have another new guest likely for next week, but next episode. But we'll see how that goes. But for now, yep, we've got this here on YouTube. On Spotify, on iTunes, on Google Podcasts. But for now, thank you very much.
Goodbye, everybody.
Wave
Take
goodbye.
Care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Wonderful.